You can't vote to elect or not elect a member of the Supreme Court. You can vote to elect or not elect a President of the United States who's going to appoint those people. So it's an indirect control, but it's there. Yes?
But how can we, how would your group have changed the electoral, seeing the problem we have now? The electoral, I've tried to read, the electoral college is not that little simple definition you get in high school. And I've tried to wrap my brain around that whole process. It's really ingenious, but I can't envision a solution. These people that wrote the Constitution and devised the electoral college.
We wrestled with it ourselves. When you read the history, you find that we started with a term of 4 years, which could be renewed, re-elected indefinitely. Then we played with the idea of term limitation and with a term of 7 years. We went back and forth, and finally we arrived at the 4-year term. And it was because George Washington, whom we all privately but clearly thought would be the first president of the United States, indicated privately, not publicly, that there should not be a limitation, that we did not limit it then and there. And then Washington, to his great credit, served 2 terms and then stepped down, and that created a custom, not a law, that presidents would leave after 2 terms. And that remained, of course, until Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and then after him, we put what had been a custom into the law. Mark Twain had a very telling comment one time. He said, "Let me write a nation's customs, and I care not who writes its laws." Because custom is far more powerful than law. When it's 1 against 1, law loses. Witness the Roaring Twenties and Al Capone. Yes, ma'am.
Can you constitutionally, is there something in the Constitution, I only reword that you can object to redistribution of wealth or redistributive powers? Is there anything in the Constitution against this?
Well, Davy Crockett, when he was a member of the House of Representatives, objected to a law proposed which would give benefits to widows of certain military officers who had died in combat. And he said, the purpose is entirely appropriate. I hereby pledge $100 to it on the spot, but I can find nothing in the Constitution that allows Congress to do this. That is an old concept that has gone by the wayside, but it was in there. Before we stop talking about the Constitution, I blow my own horn just a little bit. Because there's one clause in here that I wrote. I don't even have to look it up. It's 21 words. I had seen Thomas Paine's book, Common Sense, stolen and published by other publishers who had no contact with him and paid no royalties. They just found a copy of the book, knew it was popular, so they reset type and started putting them out themselves. Likewise, he made a design for iron bridges that could carry train traffic, locomotives. That was the standard for construction of those sort of bridges until early in the 20th century, when steel was invented to replace iron because it was stronger. How much did he get in royalties for that? 0. So from my experience, and I, of course, as you know, was a member of all the learned societies in Europe. And person after person had the same complaint, that they had invented or written or done something of obvious value, and others stole it from them. They got no benefit from it. And the concept was a very real one. Allow someone to make money from being creative, and they will be creative. We're talking Bill Gates here. We're talking Oprah Winfrey here. We're talking patents, trademarks, and copyrights clause, 21 words in the Constitution, that inventors and creators get a monopoly for 17 years in whatever it is they invent. And during that time, they can make some serious money. And then at the end of that time, and of course that time has been varied by Congress, was it Irving Berlin? No, it was Ira Gershwin who wrote Alexander's Right Down Bad. At the time, he lost your copyright at 75 years. So he's one of the few people who outlived his own copyright. But that's an engine. If you want to look at what made the United States economically the power that it is today, or that it was couple of years ago. We may be a subsidiary of China, or surely. But we were a few years ago. It is the creativity. And does that mean that Americans are biologically better than other people? No, it means they have a process which guarantees that if you invent something worthwhile to the American people or create something worthwhile, you will make a good living from it. And that causes an awful lot of people to think about an awful lot of ideas. And if 99% of them are bad and they never become commercially viable, but 1% do, what happens? You have a very prosperous nation, and it's due to that clause. And I didn't invent the idea. I did write the clause, and I gave it to my friend Jimmy Madison. And he stood up and posted it on the floor of the convention. And it was adopted without any debate. Nobody thought it was any big deal. But it turned out to be the turning point economically for the United States and the entire world for 2 centuries. Other questions? Yes, sir.
Do you think tort reform is authorized by the Constitution?
What is authorized by the Constitution is what is interstate commerce. Now, one of the worst decisions in that area is Hodel v. Virginia strip mining in 1976. A mining company in Virginia was abiding by the laws and regulations of the counties and also of the Commonwealth of Virginia and how it was mining coal, and how it was dealing with the tailings and how it was dealing with property afterwards. Congress passed a law saying, no, strip mines have to be done this way. The company objected on the obvious grounds that their mines did not cross state lines and therefore they were not part of interstate commerce. And the court reasoned in upholding Congress, well, the coal crosses lines, and if you don't buy their coal from West Virginia, they'd have to buy it elsewhere, and therefore it affects commerce even though the mines never cross the state lines. And therefore Congress can tell you how you deal with your property. The Commerce Clause is a great big opening, a loophole that'll carry tractor trailers and trains and buses and planes and all that sort of stuff. We understood what it meant. Something has to cross the state line that you were doing.
Well, what about the right to jury trial in the, I think the Sixth Amendment and the 10th Amendment reserving rights to the state? Can you talk about it?
Well, the right to a jury trial is preserved if you go to court. One of the benefits in tort reform is to say what you're doing is going to go before a panel of laymen and doctors and lawyers. You wonder why there's anything but eyeballs and teeth left when you get a group like that in a small room. And if they say that your claim has no merit, and you go to court anyway, you may lose attorney's fees and costs. That's the English system. And that does serve to cut down.
Well,
Yeah. All right, I can see the organizers of this event walking around like it's time for me to sit down and shut up. I've really enjoyed the opportunity to visit with you. I hope you've enjoyed it as well. Come over and see my
We've got something for you, Ben.
Ah.
And if you could pass this to Mr. Armour, we'd appreciate it. Okay, it says, Macon County, North Carolina, Republican Party, John Armour, starring Ben Franklin, and talks about the Constitution. Thank you for your service to the country and to the Republican Party.
Thank you
very
very
much. If you did not pick up, I think there's a few left. We had a supply of pocket constitutions. It's all right here, and you're going to read it in an hour or a little bit. John, you've got, I'll do some plugging for you. Okay. I have it. Why term limits? Right here, and I'm not familiar with this piece.
That is America's Owner's Manual, and it's an audio book, and every word on there was written either by Thomas Jefferson and his friends, Ben Franklin and his friends, or me, and that's any company to be in. But it's a discussion of the Constitution at a level where someone who's graduated from high school and can read his diploma can understand it. And it's been very, very useful, especially in homeschoolers, because they tend to be pretty bright and organized people. So, and also, if you take a copy of my business card, my latest book, which will be out in about 6 weeks, is called These Are the Times That Try Men's Souls. And the subtitle is America Then and Now, in the words of Tom Paine. And I've been working on that for about 6 years. It has a shameless lack of sex and violence. I had a great deal of trouble getting a publisher, but it is now has a publisher. It will be out shortly, and there's a website.
Thank you very much.